Everyone thought Lena Hart had the perfect relationship. She loved deeply, she trusted completely, and she believed the man beside her would someday build a beautiful future with her. But what Lena didn't know was that the two people she trusted the most were already planning to destroy her life. And the night she discovered the truth would be the same night the world believed she died. Lena Hart was known by everyone as the kindest person in the office. She worked at a marketing company in Chicago, often staying late to finish projects others left unfinished. Her co-workers admired her dedication. But there was one person she worked hardest for: Daniel Carter, her boyfriend of 3 years. Daniel had big dreams. He wanted to build a tech company that would change everything. But dreams, unfortunately, cost money, and Daniel had very little of it. Still, Lena believed in him more than anyone. One evening after work, Lena walked into their small apartment carrying groceries. "Daniel?" she called out. Daniel appeared from the living room, smiling warmly. "There you are," he said. "You're late again?" Lena laughed. Daniel wrapped his arms around her. "I'm working on something big," he said. "One day all this hard work will pay off." Lena smiled. "I know it will." Later that night, Lena met her best friend Carla at a cafe. Carla had been Lena's closest friend since college. They shared everything: dreams, secrets, heartbreaks. But lately Carla had been acting differently. "So," Carla said, stirring her coffee slowly, "still supporting Daniel's little startup?" Lena nodded proudly. "He's going to succeed someday." Carla raised an eyebrow. "And if he doesn't?" Lena smiled softly. "Then I'll still be proud of him." Carla forced a smile, but her eyes revealed something darker. That night, Lena fell asleep early. She had another long day at work tomorrow. Beside her, Daniel quietly picked up his phone. A new message appeared. From Carla. "Carla, did she give you the money yet?" Daniel glanced at Lena sleeping peacefully. Then he typed back, "Daniel, not yet." A few seconds later, another message appeared. "Carla, hurry, you're running out of time." Daniel stared at the message, then slowly typed, "I know." The next day, Lena rushed into the apartment with excitement. "Daniel," she shouted happily. Daniel looked up from his laptop. "What happened?" "I got promoted." Daniel stood up. "Really?" "Yes." Lena laughed. "Better salary, better position, everything?" Daniel hugged her tightly. "That's amazing." Then Lena said something that would change everything. "I was thinking, maybe I can help fund your business." Daniel froze for a moment, then slowly smiled. "You'd really do that for me?" Lena nodded. "Of course. I believe in you." Later that night, Daniel sat alone in the dark living room. His phone buzzed again. Carla had sent a message. "Looks like the plan is working." Daniel stared at the screen, then he typed back, "Yes." Across the room, Lena slept peacefully, completely unaware that the people she trusted most were already betraying her. Episode 2. Lena believed she had two people she could trust with her life: the man she loved and the best friend who had always stood beside her. But while Lena worked harder than ever to support Daniel's dreams, Daniel and Carla were already sharing secrets behind her back. Secrets that would soon destroy everything Lena believed in. The morning after Lena's promotion felt like a new beginning. She woke up early, full of excitement. Daniel was still asleep when she quietly prepared breakfast. Pancakes, coffee, eggs. It was her way of celebrating. When Daniel finally walked into the kitchen, Lena smiled brightly. "Good morning." Daniel rubbed his eyes. You made all this? Lena laughed. Of course. We have something to celebrate. Daniel sat down at the table. You mean your promotion? Lena nodded. Yes, but also something else. Daniel looked curious. What is it? Lena hesitated for a moment. Then she said softly, I want to invest in your company. Lena believed she had two people she could trust with her life. The man she loved and the best friend who had always stood beside her. But while Lena worked harder than ever to support Daniel's dreams, Daniel and Carla were already sharing secrets behind her back. Secrets that would soon destroy everything Lena believed in. The morning after Lena's promotion felt like a new beginning. She woke up early, full of excitement. Daniel was still asleep when she quietly prepared breakfast. Pancakes, coffee, eggs. It was her way of celebrating. When Daniel finally walked into the kitchen, Lena smiled brightly. Good morning. Daniel rubbed his eyes. You made all this? Lena laughed. Of course. We have something to celebrate. Daniel sat down at the table. You mean your promotion? Lena nodded. Yes, but also something else. Daniel looked curious. What is it? Lena hesitated for a moment. Then she said softly, I want to invest in your company. Daniel almost dropped his coffee mug. You're serious? Lena nodded again. I know how much this means to you. She reached for his hand. And I want to help make it real. Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. But something about that smile didn't reach his eyes. Later that afternoon, Lena met Carla for lunch again. The cafe was crowded, but the two friends sat quietly in the corner. Lena couldn't hide her excitement. I'm investing in Daniel's company, she said happily. Carla slowly lowered her cup. You're giving him money? Not giving, Lena corrected. Investing. Carla leaned back in her chair. How much? Lena hesitated. Well, most of my savings. Carla nearly laughed. You're risking everything for him? Lena smiled. He would do the same for me. Carla didn't respond. Instead, she stared down at the table. And deep inside, jealousy burned. Because there was something Lena didn't know. Carla had been growing closer to Daniel for months, closer than a best friend ever should. That evening, Daniel received a message. Carla, meet me at the cafe. Daniel glanced toward the bedroom where Lena was resting, then quietly grabbed his jacket. When Daniel arrived, Carla was already waiting. She looked annoyed. You took long enough. Daniel sat down across from her. She's starting to ask questions. Carla rolled her eyes. That's because you're taking too long. Daniel sighed. I told you. I'll handle it. Carla leaned forward. No, Lena's giving you money now. That changes everything. Daniel stayed silent. Carla continued speaking. You don't need her anymore. Daniel looked uncomfortable. It's not that simple. Carla smirked. 3 years pretending to love her. You deserve an award. Daniel frowned. I never said I enjoyed it. Carla leaned closer. But you enjoyed the money. Daniel didn't answer, and that silence spoke louder than words. Back at the apartment, Lena sat at the table looking at documents, investment papers, business plans. She wanted to do everything properly. When Daniel finally returned, Lena looked up. You're back. Daniel forced a smile. Yeah, just needed some air. Lena walked toward him. I've been looking at the company numbers. Daniel tensed slightly. And? Lena smiled. I think we can make this work. She handed him a folder. Tomorrow we can go to the bank. Daniel stared at the folder. Inside it was everything Lena had. Her savings, her future, her trust. Daniel closed the folder slowly. "Thank you," he said quietly. Lena hugged him. "You're going to succeed." Daniel hugged her back, but his eyes were filled with conflict. Later that night, Daniel stepped onto the balcony to make a call. Carla answered immediately. "Well?" Daniel sighed. "She's transferring the money tomorrow." Carla smiled on the other end of the line. "Perfect." Daniel looked uneasy. "She really trusts me." Carla laughed softly. "That's her mistake." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "You don't understand. She's not a bad person." Carla's voice turned cold. "That's exactly why she's easy to use." Daniel stayed silent. Then Carla said something darker. "You need to start thinking about the future." "What future?" "The one where Lena isn't part of your life anymore." Daniel looked shocked. "What are you saying?" Carla's voice lowered. "I'm saying she's becoming a problem." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Inside the apartment, Lena sat happily reviewing their plans. She whispered to herself, "This is the beginning of our future." But outside on the balcony, Daniel stared into the dark city streets, and Carla's last words echoed in his mind. "If Lena disappears, everything becomes yours." Daniel looked back at the apartment door, where Lena waited for him with love and trust. And for the first time, he didn't know which future he wanted. Fade to black. Lena believed love meant sacrifice. She thought helping Daniel was the right thing to do. But sometimes the biggest sacrifices are the most dangerous. Tonight she will give up something she can never get back. Lena sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, bills stacked beside her. Daniel's voice called from the living room. "Lena, we might need more money. The investors are stalling." Lena froze. Her hand hovered over her coffee cup. "More money? How much this time?" she asked cautiously. Daniel walked over looking slightly nervous. "Just enough to cover the payroll for the team and some marketing." Lena hesitated. I don't have much left." Daniel smiled softly, taking her hand. "You've already done so much. This is the last push, I promise." Later, Lena opened a small jewelry box. Inside was a necklace from her late mother. She whispered almost to herself, "If I sell this, maybe he can finally succeed." Her hands trembled as she held it, thinking of her mother's voice. "You always help others, Lena, but don't lose yourself." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I can't lose him. Not now." The next morning, Lena went to a local jeweler. She sold the necklace and withdrew the rest of her savings. When she called Daniel to tell him, he sounded relieved. "You did what?" Lena forced a smile through the phone. "I sold my necklace and transferred everything I had." Daniel's pause lasted longer than expected. "Lena, thank you." He didn't sound entirely sincere. Later that night, Carla called Daniel. "Did she really give it all?" she asked, excitement in her voice. "Yes," Daniel replied, glancing at Lena, who was asleep on the couch. "She really believes in me." Carla smirked. "That's perfect. Now she has nothing to fall back on." Daniel looked uneasy. "I don't like it. It feels wrong." Carla laughed softly. "Wrong or convenient? Remember, she trusts you blindly." Daniel sighed and hung up. The next day, Lena prepared her business documents carefully. "I know this will help him," she whispered. She smiled at the thought of a future together. Love, success, happiness, all for Daniel. What she didn't know, however, was that Carla was watching her every move. That night, as Lena slept, Daniel received a message from Carla. "The plan is working. Soon she'll be powerless. Daniel stared at the phone. He didn't reply. He couldn't. And Lena believed she was building a future she might never get to see. Fade to black. Lena thought she knew everything about Daniel and Carla. She trusted them both. But some secrets are hidden in the shadows, waiting to destroy you. Daniel had been acting distant lately. Lena noticed he was texting constantly, disappearing for hours without explanation. "Where were you today?" she asked gently. Daniel smiled nervously. "Just errands, business stuff." Lena frowned but let it go. She wanted to believe in him. Meanwhile, Daniel met Carla at a cafe. Carla leaned across the table. "She suspects nothing," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes. She's investing everything she has. Soon, it will all be ours." Carla smirked. "Good. Once it's done, she won't have any control." Daniel felt a pang of guilt. "But she loves me." Carla's eyes narrowed. "And that's exactly why she's easy to manipulate." Later, Lena noticed her bank statement had a small irregularity. "Strange," she muttered. "Something doesn't add up." She tried asking Daniel casually, "Is everything okay with the transfer?" Daniel's face went pale. "Everything's fine, really." Lena believed him, at least for now. That night, Daniel and Carla met again in secret. Carla whispered, "Once she's blind enough, we'll take everything. Her money, her loyalty, her love, and she won't even know it." Daniel swallowed nervously. I feel bad." Carla leaned close, a dangerous glint in her eyes. "Good. That guilt will keep you under control." Meanwhile, Lena slept in her apartment, unaware of the betrayal happening right under her roof. Her phone buzzed in the other room. It was a message from Carla. "Everything is going according to plan." Lena never saw it, but soon she would. 3 years of love, destroyed in a single moment. Lena believed in Daniel with all her heart. Her best friend Carla had always been by her side. But love and friendship can be deceiving. Tonight, Lena's world would shatter. Lena decided to surprise Daniel with dinner. She arrived home early from work, humming a tune. "Daniel," she called softly as she unlocked the door. There was laughter inside, not Daniel's, someone else's. Her heart sank. Lena opened the door slowly. There they were, Daniel and Carla, sitting too close on the couch. Lena's hands trembled. "Carla, what are you doing?" Carla froze, then smiled cruelly. "Oh, Lena, you're home early." Daniel stood up, avoiding her eyes. "Lena, I can explain." Lena's voice cracked. "Explain? Explain what?" Daniel took a deep breath. I never loved you, Lena." Carla leaned back, smirking. "You were useful, that's all." Lena stumbled backward. 3 years. 3 years of trust, love, and sacrifice. Gone. She whispered, barely audible. How could you?" Daniel tried to step toward her. "It's not what you think." Lena shook her head. "I don't want to hear it." She ran out into the rainy night, heartbroken. The streets were empty. Rain poured down as Lena walked, tears mixing with the drops. Her thoughts raced. Everything I did. For him. For us. Wasted. A sudden flash of headlights. A speeding car. Lena barely had time to scream. The world would soon believe Lena Hart was dead. The night Lena discovered Daniel and Carla together, her entire world collapsed. 3 years of love turned out to be nothing but a lie. But what happened after she walked out into the rain would change every life involved forever. Because that night, the world believed Lena Hart died. Lena walked down the empty street, rain pouring heavily around her. Her mind replayed the words Daniel said. "I never loved you." Her chest felt tight. Every memory now felt fake. The dinners she cooked, the nights she stayed up helping him with business plans, the sacrifices she made, all of it meant nothing. Her phone buzzed, a message from Daniel. "Leave the apartment keys tomorrow." Lena stopped walking. Her hands trembled. 3 years together, and that was all he had to say. Back in the apartment, Carla poured 2 glasses of wine. Daniel looked uneasy. "Maybe we were too harsh," he muttered. Carla laughed. "Too harsh? She was living in your apartment and funding your company." Daniel shook his head. "She loved me." Carla rolled her eyes. "And now she's gone." She raised her glass. "To freedom." Daniel hesitated, but eventually drank. Meanwhile, Lena kept walking. She barely noticed the traffic lights changing, her vision blurred with tears. A car approached from the distance, fast, too fast. A driver argued on the phone while speeding through the rain. Lena stepped onto the road. Then bright headlights appeared, a loud screech, and a violent crash. Everything went black. Sirens echoed through the night. Paramedics rushed Lena into the emergency room. Doctors shouted instructions. "She's losing pulse. Prepare for surgery." Minutes passed. Then the heart monitor suddenly went flat. One doctor sighed. "Time of death." But just as they prepared to move her body, a faint heartbeat returned. The nurse gasped. "Wait, I'm detecting a pulse." The doctors rushed back into action. Outside the hospital, police spoke with the driver. "Did you see her before the impact?" The driver looked terrified. "I swear, someone told me to drive fast through that road tonight." The officer frowned. "Someone?" The driver nodded nervously. "But I never saw their face." Inside the hospital, Lena's heart monitor beeped slowly. She was alive. But no one outside that room knew it. Fade to black. The news spread quickly. Lena Hart had died in a tragic accident. Friends mourned, co-workers cried, but 2 people reacted very differently. Daniel and Carla. Daniel scrolled through his phone in disbelief. A news article appeared. "Young woman killed in late-night accident." The name made his stomach drop. Lena Hart. Carla stared at the screen, then slowly whispered, "Is this real?" Daniel swallowed. "I think so." They sat in silence. Carla eventually spoke. "Well, that solves our problem." Daniel looked at her sharply. "You shouldn't say things like that." But even he couldn't hide the relief in his eyes. Days later, a small funeral was held. Lena's co-workers attended. Her boss cried. She was one of the best people I ever worked with. Daniel stood quietly beside the coffin. Everyone believed he was grieving, but inside, he felt something very different. Guilt. Carla squeezed his arm. "Relax," she whispered. "No one suspects anything." At a private hospital room, Lena slowly opened her eyes. Everything hurt. Machines surrounded her. A nurse rushed to call the doctor. "You're lucky," the doctor said gently. "You survived a very serious accident." Lena whispered weakly. "How long?" 2 weeks. Then the doctor hesitated. "There's something you should know." He showed her a news article about her own death. Lena stared at the screen in shock. Lena whispered slowly, "So? Everyone thinks I'm dead?" The doctor nodded. For a long moment, Lena said nothing. Then something unexpected happened. She smiled faintly. "Good." Fade to black. Lena had just learned the world believed she was dead. But the truth about her accident was even darker. Because someone might have wanted her dead. Later that day, a tall man entered Lena's hospital room. He wore a sharp suit and carried himself with quiet authority. "My name is Vincent Hale," he said calmly. "I've been investigating your accident." Lena frowned. "Why?" Hale sat down. "Because it wasn't an accident." Hale explained everything. The driver who hit Lena had been paid to drive fast down that street. Someone gave him instructions. The driver didn't know who hired him, but the payment came from a business account, a company Lena recognized instantly, Daniel's startup. Lena's heart stopped. Hale leaned forward. "You have two options. You can return to your old life, or let the world believe you're dead." Lena thought about Daniel, Carla, the betrayal. Then she whispered quietly, "If they think I'm dead, they'll never see me coming." Hale smiled slightly. "Exactly." Lena stared out the window. Her voice was calm but cold. "The girl they betrayed died that night." Hale nodded slowly. "Then who are you now?" Lena's eyes hardened. "Someone they should fear." Fade to black. Months passed. The weak, trusting Lena disappeared. In her place, a new woman was rising. Hale introduced Lena to the world of business strategy, investments, negotiations, power. Lena studied constantly, day and night. She was no longer the naive woman who trusted easily. Meanwhile, Daniel's company began growing rapidly, using Lena's stolen money. Carla celebrated every success. "See," she said proudly, "you made the right choice." Daniel nodded. But sometimes, late at night, he still thought about Lena. From a distance, Lena watched everything, through financial reports, through social media, through Hale's contacts. One evening, she whispered quietly, "They're happy." Hale looked at her. "For now." Lena placed a document on the table, a purchase contract. She'd just bought shares in Daniel's biggest creditor. The first move in her revenge had begun. Fade to black. Daniel thought he was winning. His company was growing. Money was flowing in. But he had no idea. The woman he betrayed was slowly taking everything away. Carla pushed Daniel to expand faster. Bigger offices, more investors, more publicity. Daniel hesitated. "We're moving too fast." Carla shook her head. "Success waits for no one." Meanwhile, Lena quietly built a financial empire. Investment after investment succeeded. Hale watched with growing respect. "You learn quickly," he said. Lena replied calmly, "I learned from betrayal." One evening, Daniel received shocking news. His largest creditor had been bought by an unknown investor. The company now demanded immediate repayment. Daniel panicked. "Who bought them?" The banker shook his head. "We don't know." Across the city, Lena watched the news calmly. Hale asked, "Ready to reveal yourself?" Lena shook her head. "Not yet." She looked at Daniel's company building through the window. "First, I want him to lose everything." Fade to black. Daniel believed his company was finally becoming successful. Investors were showing interest. Money was flowing in, and the past he left behind seemed buried forever. But somewhere in the shadows, the woman he betrayed was quietly taking control of his entire future. Daniel sat in his office staring at financial reports. The numbers didn't make sense. "How can this be happening?" he muttered. A banker sat across from him. "Your largest creditor has been purchased by a private investor." Daniel frowned. "Who?" The banker shook his head. "The identity is confidential." Daniel leaned back in frustration. "So someone suddenly owns most of my debt?" The banker nodded. "Yes." "And they're demanding repayment?" Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. That night, Daniel told Carla everything. Carla didn't look worried. Instead, she rolled her eyes. It's probably just some investor trying to scare you. Daniel shook his head. No, something feels wrong. Carla poured herself a drink. You're paranoid. Daniel stared at the financial papers again. Someone is targeting the company. Carla smirked. Well, whoever they are, they'll regret it. But neither of them knew. The person behind it all was already watching. In a luxurious office overlooking the city skyline, Lena sat calmly across from Mr. Hale. On the table were several contracts. Hale looked impressed. You now control 40% of Daniel's debt. Lena nodded. That's not enough yet. Hale raised an eyebrow. You plan to take everything? Lena smiled faintly. Yes. She looked out the window toward the distant city lights. He took 3 years of my life. I'll take his entire future. Hale handed Lena another document. Your next move is ready. Lena read it slowly, then smiled. She had just purchased shares in Daniel's company through anonymous investors. The trap was tightening, and Daniel had no idea. Daniel's company was suddenly surrounded by mysterious investors. Shares were disappearing, debts were rising, and somewhere behind it all, a familiar pair of eyes was watching his downfall. Daniel stormed into a meeting room filled with his staff. Who sold these shares? He demanded. One employee spoke nervously. They were bought through multiple private accounts. Daniel slammed the table. This isn't random. Someone is planning something. The employees looked worried. Meanwhile, Daniel's phone buzzed. Another email from the bank. More financial pressure. Carla visited Daniel's office later that evening. You need to stay calm, she said. Daniel shook his head. Our company could collapse if this continues. Carla crossed her arms. Then find a big investor. Daniel sighed. That's not easy. Carla smiled suddenly. I might have good news. She handed him an invitation, an exclusive investor conference. Daniel read the name of the event. A mysterious new investment group called Aurora Holdings was funding promising startups. Carla grinned. This could save everything. Daniel nodded slowly. Maybe, but he still felt uneasy. At the same time, Lena reviewed the same invitation. Hale smiled. The event is ready. Lena nodded. Good. Hale leaned forward. You know, once you reveal yourself, everything changes. Lena looked calm. I know. Hale studied her carefully. Are you ready to face him again? Lena paused, then answered quietly. I've been ready for months. Daniel placed the invitation on his desk. This investor conference might save my company. Across the city, Lena whispered softly, Yes, it will. Daniel arrived at the investor conference hoping to save his business. But the moment the host walked onto the stage, his entire world stopped, because the woman he thought was dead was standing right in front of him. The luxury hotel ballroom buzzed with wealthy investors and entrepreneurs. Daniel adjusted his tie nervously. This could change everything, he told Carla. Carla nodded confidently. Just impress them. The lights dimmed. The host walked onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of Aurora Holdings. Applause filled the room. Then the spotlight revealed the speaker. Daniel froze. His heart nearly stopped. It was Lena. Alive. The room applauded loudly, but Daniel felt like the world had turned upside down. He whispered, That's impossible. Carla stared at the stage in horror. No. She died. But Lena stood confidently under the bright lights, elegant, powerful, untouchable, nothing like the woman they once knew. Lena looked out at the crowd. Her eyes slowly scanned the room. Then they stopped. directly on Daniel. For a moment, their eyes locked. Daniel felt his blood run cold. She knew he was there. Daniel couldn't believe what he was seeing. The woman he betrayed, the woman he thought had died, was now standing in front of hundreds of powerful investors, and she looked stronger than ever. Lena began speaking calmly. Aurora Holdings was built on one belief. That betrayal can either destroy you or make you stronger. Daniel's hands started shaking. Carla whispered urgently, "We need to leave." But Daniel couldn't move. He kept staring at Lena. After the speech ended, guests rushed to congratulate Lena. Daniel pushed through the crowd desperately. He had to know the truth. Finally, he stood in front of her. "Lena," he whispered. She turned slowly. Her expression was calm, almost distant, as if she were looking at a stranger. Daniel asked the question, trembling in his voice. "How are you alive?" Lena looked at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "The girl who loved you died that night." Fade to black. Daniel thought Lena had come back to confront him, to argue, to scream. But instead, she'd returned with something far more dangerous: power. Daniel stood frozen. "What do you mean?" he asked. Lena replied calmly, "The woman standing in front of you isn't the one you betrayed." Daniel looked confused. "Lena, listen." But Lena raised her hand. "You should be careful what you say." Daniel frowned. "Why?" Lena smiled faintly. "Because I now own most of your company's debt." Daniel's face turned pale. Daniel shook his head. "That's impossible." Lena handed him a document. He read the name of the investor controlling his creditors, Aurora Holdings. His hands began shaking. "You..." Lena nodded. "Yes." Lena stepped closer and whispered something that terrified him. "This is only the beginning." Daniel looked at her in shock. "What are you going to do?" Lena's eyes turned cold. "Take everything you stole from me." Daniel thought seeing Lena alive was the worst shock of his life. But that moment was only the beginning, because Lena didn't come back for closure. She came back to take everything he had built, piece by piece. Daniel stood frozen, holding the document Lena had just handed him. Aurora Holdings, the company controlling most of his debt. His voice trembled. You own my creditors?" Lena looked calm. "Yes." Daniel shook his head. "You're bluffing." Lena pulled out another document. "This one shows the shares I recently acquired in your company." Daniel read the numbers. His face slowly turned pale. She now owned a controlling portion of his business. Carla pulled Daniel aside immediately. "This is insane," she whispered. "She's trying to scare us." Daniel shook his head. "No, the documents are real." Carla looked toward Lena across the room. For the first time, Carla felt afraid, because the quiet, kind girl she once mocked was gone. Lena approached them again calmly. "I'm not here to embarrass you tonight," she said. Daniel stared at her. "Then what do you want?" Lena's voice was cold. "I want justice." Daniel scoffed. "Justice? You invested in my company. You didn't own me." Lena leaned closer. "No, but you stole from me. And worse, you tried to erase me." Daniel froze. He didn't know what she meant yet, but he would soon. As Lena walked away, she said one final sentence. "Tomorrow morning, your company will lose its largest contract." Daniel stared after her in disbelief. How could she possibly do that? Across the room, Lena simply smiled. Daniel thought Lena was bluffing, but the next morning, everything began collapsing exactly the way she predicted, and then she revealed a truth that changed everything. Daniel rushed into his office the next morning. His assistant looked terrified. "We lost the Orion contract." Daniel slammed his desk. "That contract was worth millions." The assistant nodded nervously. "They switched to Aurora Holdings." Daniel's stomach dropped. Daniel stormed into Lena's office later that day. "You're destroying my company," he shouted. Lena didn't look surprised. She calmly poured herself a cup of tea. "You destroyed it yourself." Daniel's voice shook with anger. "You're doing this out of revenge." Lena looked at him carefully. "Revenge? No." She leaned forward. "Truth." Lena opened a file on her desk. Police reports, phone records, financial transfers. "The man who hit me that night," she said quietly, "was paid." Daniel's face went pale. "He confessed." Daniel stepped back slowly. "That's ridiculous." Lena slid the file toward him. "The payment came from an account connected to your company." Daniel whispered, "No." Lena looked directly into his eyes. "You didn't just betray me, Daniel. You tried to kill me." Daniel wasn't the only one responsible. There was someone else who helped plan everything. Someone Lena once trusted like a sister. Carla. Carla stormed into Daniel's office. "You told her everything?" she shouted. Daniel looked furious. "I didn't tell her anything." Carla panicked. "Then how does she know about the accident?" Daniel rubbed his face. "I don't know." For the first time, they realized how powerful Lena had become. Later that evening, Lena invited them both to a private meeting. They arrived nervously. Lena calmly placed another folder on the table. Inside were text messages, emails, bank transfers, all connecting Carla to the driver. Carla's face turned white. "This is fake," she whispered. Lena shook her head. "No. You helped arrange the meeting between Daniel and the driver." Carla's voice cracked. "I didn't mean for her to die." The room went silent. Daniel slowly turned toward Carla. "You planned this?" Carla began crying. "You said it was the only way." Suddenly the door opened. Police officers walked inside, and Lena spoke calmly. "I believe these two have something to confess." Daniel and Carla thought the worst was over, but Lena had spent months preparing something far bigger, and tonight, their entire world collapsed. The police placed handcuffs on Daniel and Carla. Carla cried hysterically. "I didn't want to hurt her." Daniel stared at Lena in disbelief. "You set this up." Lena replied quietly. "No, you did." Before being taken away, Daniel asked one last question. "Why go this far?" Lena paused for a moment, then answered softly, "Because some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness." Daniel lowered his head. For the first time, he truly realized what he had lost. As the police car drove away, Mr. Hale approached Lena. "You handled that perfectly," he said. Then he added something strange. "Just like your mother would have." Lena looked at him thoughtfully. Daniel believed Lena planned everything after surviving the accident. But the truth was far darker, because the accident itself was never meant to kill her. Later that night, Lena met Mr. Hale in his office. "You did well," Hale said. "Daniel and Carla are finished." Lena nodded. "Your investigation worked perfectly." Hale smiled slightly. "You were the key." Lena looked at him carefully. "You knew about Daniel's crimes long before the accident?" Hale nodded. "Yes." "We just needed proof," Lena asked quietly. "So the accident?" Hale replied calmly. "It was meant to trap Daniel. But we never expected you to get hurt that badly." Then Hale looked at her. "You were supposed to be bait." The room fell silent. Hale expected Lena to look shocked, but instead, she slowly smiled. I know. Hale frowned. You knew? Lena nodded. I discovered the truth months ago. Hale stared at her in disbelief. Then why continue the plan? Lena's eyes turned cold, because I wanted to finish it. Lena stood up and walked toward the window, overlooking the city. The same city where her life once collapsed. Hale asked quietly, So what happens now? Lena answered calmly, Now I live. Then she added one final chilling line. The only difference, the girl they betrayed would have forgiven them. She turned toward the door. But the woman they created never will. If you enjoyed this emotional story, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful love and life stories.
They say some people walk into your life like they were sent. That was exactly how Emma felt the day she met John, and it was not dramatic at all. There was no slow motion and no background music, just a random Saturday at a friend's birthday hangout, where Emma stood near a balcony, scrolling and trying not to feel out of place. Then John walked up and said, "Looks like you are planning your escape," with a soft smile that made her laugh and admit, "Maybe I am." And that tiny moment felt like a first spark that neither of them could ignore. They started talking, and somehow they never stopped, while hours passed like minutes and stories turned into secrets they had not shared in a long time. They spoke about childhood memories that still felt warm, and dreams they were scared to say out loud, and even heartbreaks that still left small scars they pretended were gone. What surprised Emma most was how John listened, not the kind of fake listening people do while waiting to talk, but the kind where he remembered details and asked simple questions that showed he cared. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt seen and safe. When the night was ending, John looked at her with a quiet seriousness and said, "I do not know why, but I feel like you are different." And Emma felt her heart pause before she chose to believe him, because it felt true in that soft way hope can feel. The weeks that followed moved like a sweet movie, with good morning texts and late-night calls that faded into sleep, and random messages during the day that said, "I was just thinking about you." And it all felt easy and clear because John kept showing up in small ways that mattered. He picked Emma up from work and waited outside her office just to walk her to her door. And he remembered the little things about her, like her favorite drink, her favorite movie, and even the song she loved but felt shy to admit. And little by little, Emma's walls began to fall in quiet steps she almost did not notice. One evening, they sat on the hood of his car, watching the sky turn orange, and Emma asked, "What are we doing, John?" And he did not hesitate when he said, "I am not here to waste your time. You are my priority. I promise." And that word felt heavy and safe all at once. Emma had been hurt before, and she knew what broken promises felt like. But something about John felt steady and real. So weeks turned into months, and they posted pictures and friends admired them, and people said they looked happy. And they were, or at least that is what it felt like most days. Sometimes John held her face and whispered, "I will never give you a reason to doubt me." And Emma smiled without seeing how life loves to test even the strongest beginnings. Because the most beautiful love stories do not always collapse in one big moment. They can start perfect, start with promises, and still begin to crack in quiet ways. It started small, with a missed call and a canceled date, and a simple excuse that did not fully add up. And one Wednesday, Emma waited at their favorite restaurant while 10 minutes turned into 20, and then 40, with no message and no call, just a slow silence that got loud. When her phone finally lit up with John calling, he spoke too fast and said, "I am so sorry. Work ran late. My boss dropped something urgent." And Emma let out a slow breath and said, "You could have texted." And he said his phone died and he just charged it, but she had seen him online 30 minutes earlier, and that tiny detail felt like sand in her shoe. He asked if she was still there and told her to go home and said he would make it up to her. "I promise." And that word returned like a soft echo that now felt a little shaky. Later, he showed up at her door with flowers and a tight hug and whispered, "I hate disappointing you." And Emma wanted to believe him so badly, but his shirt smelled different, not like his usual cologne, something softer and sweet. And when she asked who he was with at work, he said, "Yeah, that is what happened," with the smallest pause that she would have missed a month ago. They sat together, but the air felt different. Not heavy, just changed, like a tiny crack in glass that you only see when the light hits it right. And Emma tried to smile through it, while her chest tried to understand something her mind was not ready to hold. The next day, she scrolled through social media and saw a group photo from one of his coworkers at a lounge, posted 1 hour before he called her. And there was John, smiling with a drink, standing very close to a girl she had never seen before. And her heart did not shatter. It just sank quiet and low. That evening, he called and said, "Hey babe, miss me?" And Emma asked how work was yesterday, and he said it was stressful with a pause that pressed on the picture she was still looking at. This was not betrayal, not yet, but it was not honesty either. And sometimes trust does not break with one loud moment. It weakens softly, one small lie at a time, until the ground you thought was solid feels thin. Emma ended the call early, and for the first time since they met, she did not feel safe inside his promises. And what she did not know yet was that the truth behind that picture was about to change everything. Emma did not sleep that night, because the image kept replaying in her mind, with John in the lounge, the girl by his side, and the lie sitting between all of it like a heavy stone. By morning, her heart was not racing anymore. It was calm, and that calm scared her, because calm meant she was ready for the truth. That evening, John came over like nothing had happened, and he kissed her forehead and said, "Hey, beautiful." Emma did not smile, and she told him to sit down, John. He frowned and asked what was wrong, but Emma picked up her phone and told him to think carefully before he answered. She turned the screen toward him and showed the photo, and for a split second, his face changed. Then he leaned back and said, "Oh, that." Emma kept her voice quiet and asked if that was what kept him at work. He rushed out, "It is not what you think. It was just a quick team hangout, and I did not tell you because I knew you would overreact." That word hit harder than the lie, and Emma said, "So instead, you lied." He said he did not lie. He just did not give full details. She said he told her his phone died. He claimed it did. She said he was online. He hesitated and said it must have been before it died. The answers came too fast and too smooth. Emma asked who the girl was. He said she was just a colleague. She asked why they were standing so close. John sighed and told her she was reading too much into this. There it was, the shift, where she was no longer hurt. She was paranoid. Emma said she trusted him yesterday, before he lied. John stood up, frustrated, and said he did not cheat. What else did she want? Emma said she wanted the truth. He ran his hands through his hair and said he did not tell her because he knew she would start drama. Emma stood up slowly and said it was important to her, and if something matters to her and he hides it, then he decided her feelings did not matter. John did not apologize, and instead he said if she could not trust him, maybe that was her issue. Everything shifted. Emma grabbed her phone and walked to the door. He asked where she was going. She said she needed space. He told her not to be dramatic. She stopped and looked back and said she was not being dramatic. She was being careful. And for the first time since they met, Emma walked away first. 3 days passed with no calls and no texts, no good morning, and no I miss you, just silence. Then Emma received a message from an unknown number that said, "Hi, I think we need to talk. This is Sarah." Emma froze, because Sarah was the girl from the photo. Another message came that said, "I did not know about you." Emma felt her heart tighten and typed, "What do you mean?" Sarah replied, "John told me he was single." The room felt smaller, and Emma asked how long. Sarah said about 2 months. Emma remembered the night John said, "You are the only woman in my life." Her breathing went shallow. Sarah wrote again and said she was sorry, and she found out yesterday when someone tagged him in Emma's picture. Everything made sense. The late nights, the canceled dates, and the defensiveness. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a double life. Emma stared at John's contact, and then her phone started ringing, because John was calling, as if he felt something had just changed. She answered, and he said maybe they should talk. Emma asked, "Are you single, John?" He went quiet, and then asked what kind of question that was. She said it was simple. He said of course he was not single, because he was with her. Emma closed her eyes and asked why Sarah thought he was. The line went silent. He said he could explain. Emma said, "Do not." In that moment, she finally understood that John did not only lie once, he built a life around lies. But what Emma did not know was that Sarah was not the only one. Emma and Sarah met at a quiet cafe, two women who should never have been in the same room. But as they compared timelines, the truth became clear. Sarah said he told her he loved her in January. Emma nodded and said he told her that too. Sarah said he wanted something serious. Emma laughed sadly and said he told her he was tired of games. They were not rivals. They were victims of the same script. Then Sarah said there was another girl before her, and Emma felt her stomach drop, because this was a pattern. That evening, Emma and Sarah did something different. They did not scream or insult him. They simply posted the truth, with screenshots, dates, and messages, and one simple caption that said, "Sometimes the problem is not insecurity, it is dishonesty." Within hours, John's phone exploded with messages from friends asking if it was real and what he did. The story changed, and he was not the victim anymore. He was exposed. Weeks passed while Emma focused on herself and healed quietly. John tried calling and texting, but he was blocked, and for the first time, he had no audience, no sympathy, and just consequences. 3 months later, they saw each other again at a mutual event, and John walked over and said hi. Emma smiled politely and said, "Hi, John." He said she looked good. She said peace looked good on her. He looked down and said he was really sorry. Emma nodded and said she knew. Then she said something he would never forget. She said, "I forgave you." His face lifted with hope, but she finished and said, "But forgiveness does not mean access." Emma walked away, not angry or bitter, just free, because sometimes the greatest revenge is healing and moving on. If you enjoyed this story, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories about love, lies, and betrayal. Emma did not sleep that night, because the image kept replaying in her mind, with John in the lounge, the girl by his side, and the lie sitting between all of it like a heavy stone. By morning, her heart was not racing anymore. It was calm, and that calm scared her, because calm meant she was ready for the truth. That evening, John came over like nothing had happened, and he kissed her forehead and said, "Hey, beautiful." Emma did not smile, and she told him to sit down, John. He frowned and asked what was wrong, but Emma picked up her phone and told him to think carefully before he answered. She turned the screen toward him and showed the photo, and for a split second, his face changed. Then he leaned back and said, "Oh, that." Emma kept her voice quiet and asked if that was what kept him at work. He rushed out, "It is not what you think. It was just a quick team hangout, and I did not tell you because I knew you would overreact." That word hit harder than the lie, and Emma said, "So instead, you lied." He said he did not lie. He just did not give full details. She said he told her his phone died. He claimed it did. She said he was online. He hesitated and said it must have been before it died. The answers came too fast and too smooth. Emma asked who the girl was. He said she was just a colleague. She asked why they were standing so close. John sighed and told her she was reading too much into this. There it was, the shift, where she was no longer hurt. She was paranoid. Emma said she trusted him yesterday, before he lied. John stood up, frustrated, and said he did not cheat. What else did she want? Emma said she wanted the truth. He ran his hands through his hair and said he did not tell her because he knew she would start drama. Emma stood up slowly and said it was important to her, and if something matters to her and he hides it, then he decided her feelings did not matter. John did not apologize, and instead he said if she could not trust him, maybe that was her issue. Everything shifted. Emma grabbed her phone and walked to the door. He asked where she was going. She said she needed space. He told her not to be dramatic. She stopped and looked back and said she was not being dramatic. She was being careful. And for the first time since they met, Emma walked away first. 3 days passed with no calls and no texts, no good morning, and no I miss you, just silence. Then Emma received a message from an unknown number that said, "Hi, I think we need to talk. This is Sarah." Emma froze, because Sarah was the girl from the photo. Another message came that said, "I did not know about you." Emma felt her heart tighten and typed, "What do you mean?" Sarah replied, "John told me he was single." The room felt smaller, and Emma asked how long. Sarah said about 2 months. Emma remembered the night John said, "You are the only woman in my life." Her breathing went shallow. Sarah wrote again and said she was sorry, and she found out yesterday when someone tagged him in Emma's picture. Everything made sense. The late nights, the canceled dates, and the defensiveness. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a double life. Emma stared at John's contact, and then her phone started ringing, because John was calling, as if he felt something had just changed. She answered, and he said, maybe they should talk. Emma asked, "Are you single, John?" He went quiet, and then asked what kind of question that was. She said it was simple. He said of course he was not single, because he was with her. Emma closed her eyes and asked why Sarah thought he was. The line went silent. He said he could explain. Emma said, "Do not." In that moment, she finally understood that John did not only lie once, he built a life around lies. But what Emma did not know was that Sarah was not the only one. Emma and Sarah met at a quiet cafe, two women who should never have been in the same room. But as they compared timelines, the truth became clear. Sarah said he told her he loved her in January. Emma nodded and said he told her that too. Sarah said he wanted something serious. Emma laughed sadly and said he told her he was tired of games. They were not rivals. They were victims of the same script. Then Sarah said there was another girl before her, and Emma felt her stomach drop, because this was a pattern. That evening, Emma and Sarah did something different. They did not scream or insult him. They simply posted the truth, with screenshots, dates, and messages, and one simple caption that said, "Sometimes the problem is not insecurity, it is dishonesty." Within hours, John's phone exploded with messages from friends asking if it was real and what he did. The story changed, and he was not the victim anymore. He was exposed. Weeks passed while Emma focused on herself and healed quietly. John tried calling and texting, but he was blocked, and for the first time, he had no audience, no sympathy, and just consequences. 3 months later, they saw each other again at a mutual event, and John walked over and said hi. Emma smiled politely and said, "Hi, John." He said she looked good. She said peace looked good on her. He looked down and said he was really sorry. Emma nodded and said she knew. Then she said something he would never forget. She said, "I forgave you." His face lifted with hope, but she finished and said, "But forgiveness does not mean access." Emma walked away, not angry or bitter, just free, because sometimes the greatest revenge is healing and moving on. If you enjoyed this story, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories about love, lies, and betrayal.